We're live. What's up, guys? So sorry about that. Could you give us a 5x5, please, if you can hear us? As you can tell, Laura is not with us at the moment. She was having some tech issues. So hopefully in about 10, 15 minutes, she's going to be somewhere where she has a signal and she'll just hop on then. So we apologize for the delay. Thank you guys for being here tonight, though. A few announcements before we get started. We have Hopewell Farm CBD Black Friday sale going on, guys. Let's go, Brandon. 15 gets you 15% off of all Hopewell Farm products. If you're looking for a new CBD to try, it's really great stuff. Free shipping over any purchase over $200 or more. They have veterans discounts. You can pay with crypto. And that Black Friday sale does run through December 12th. And that is Let's Go Brandon 15 for 15% off. And what else? Oh, we have a new Teespring promo. So we're going to run a Black Friday sale basically from now through the first of the year. All of our Teespring merch is 20% off with promo code 20 and back. And so it's 20 AND back. And that gets you 20% off all of our Teespring merch through the first of the year. What else? What's going on, Tony? How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How's it going with you guys? Been busy as can be.
Right. You just spoke at the 5D conference in Vegas, right?
I did 5D, and then a week after I got back, I did Detroit Disclosure just this last weekend. So it's been, I covered a lot of distance. And the 5D conference was kind of, Vegas is a whirlwind in itself, right? I was unprepared for that, but yeah, it went well. And I got to meet some people that I've known for years that have been other whistleblowers that have stories. I got to meet people and hang out in person, like James Rank and Penny Bradley and Eric Heckler, a lot of Anthony Zender. I got to hang out with those guys that have been in contact with me on the fringes ever since I went public. So it was cool. It was good to do that.
Awesome. Laura just popped up and then she popped back off. So we'll give her some time. She'll be back, I'm sure. Yeah, that's really cool. And it sucks because I didn't even know about that conference until it was too late. And the same thing about there's another one in Detroit or Michigan, right?
Yeah, the Detroit Disclosure. And I knew about that, but coming off the heels of Vegas, I kind of had a full plate of stuff. And I did post it on my Facebook, but albeit a little bit late. Everybody, I kind of got a slap on the wrist with people saying you should have posted it sooner. So
it's, it is what it is though, but it's good. It's good to see that these events are popping up still.
That's right. It's and I'll say this, that my first talk at 5D, there was like a handful of people in the room. And then I did the panel, and my second talk on Sunday was packed. Everybody came in, and not only that, but the people that threw the event, there were a lot of people that had no idea, had never heard of my information. And in my conferences, like when I met you guys down in Florida, most of the crowd knew my info. They had seen my info before, most of the people in the crowd. And even the first Detroit Disclosure I did 2 years ago, because I like to ask people who's heard my story, raise hands. And 5D, there were a lot of people that didn't. And Detroit Disclosure this year, almost nobody in the crowd knew my information. I was explaining what a 20 and back is to the crowd. So I didn't mind that, because I think that's important. I think that those are the people we need to talk to, not the people that have watched 100 episodes of my stuff that know my story front to back. It's the new people that we need to proliferate the information. And, it's coming, man. I mean, like, whatever, I'm not a psychic, and it's bad news to predict the future, but you just know, I can just feel it, that it's coming. They're going to, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be in our lifetime. It's going to be in a matter of a few years. They're going to sort out all the BS, and we're going to get some kind of disclosure here pretty quick. So I just
we're coming. There's going to be a breaking point. There's going to be a breaking point, and if you really pay attention, they're getting their ducks in a row. I mean, even mainstream media, we're getting stuff leaking through from everywhere, from all angles. New people are coming forward. Some of it's disinfo, misinfo. There's a lot of counterintelligence going on. I actually have a friend who quit channeling right now because of all the counterintelligence. She was like, I just can't trust. She goes, I know myself, and I know when information is good, but she goes, right now I'm getting some stuff that doesn't resonate with me. So she just stopped channeling altogether. because there's opposing forces out there. So not just channeling, and even people with insiders and even whistleblowers, like there's people sent in to muddy the waters, and we're seeing that in real time right now. And it's really, really, you have to be really, really careful right now to not marry yourself to any of this information. Don't follow these people or idolize these people. Just take it all in, observe, and just connect the dots on your own. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're all here trying to do.
That's what I've always told people to do. Don't take my word for it. Go and research what I'm saying. Keep an eye on it. Tell somebody you think it'd be weird if you believed it automatically right out of from one story. But if you research it and you know it and you believe this information, tell people that don't know it. And even if they tell you you're crazy, go, okay, well, I told you. And in a year, somebody else will tell them from a different angle, and somebody else. And that's how we're going to get this out. That is disclosure. I mean, that's where like really our feet are on the ground. We are disclosing right now. It's important. Once there's a lot of people, then it becomes, not an urban legend, but a more of a rumor. We want to get this to the level of a rumor, not some kind of weird urban legend thing. And the disinfo is real, dude. Like you hit it on the head. So I don't want to be the guy that goes around pointing fingers because I have 3 pointing back at me, but it's very obvious that there is a concerted, they're spending money. When I go to these conferences, there's people there that are saying the same kind of code words over and over again, and they're giving kind of the BS story where it's like there's not that many aliens, and the ones that are all evil and we're fighting them. That's really the disinfo story. And they wouldn't mess with us if we weren't important, dude. Like that's I'll tell you, if everybody goes, well, whatever, you guys are just some kind of fringe small thing, we wouldn't be on the radar of the powers that be if we weren't saying something real here.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I definitely believe that. And guys, if you're just not joining us, Laura is going to be hopping on as soon as she can. She was running a little behind. We decided to start without her. So in case you were wondering, she will be here. Just give it a few minutes. And so you've actually have, Tony, before she gets here, we might as well talk about some, I guess, recent revelations that you've been having, I guess, or recall, I should say. In particular, something I want to get into is the actual name of Darkfleet. This has been something going around. There's a certain individual claiming that everyone else using the term Darkfleet is LARP or a fraud, and that's simply not the case. And I was wondering if you could add to that and let us know why.
Right. So here we go. This is going out on a limb, and I never really gave it much thought. So when somebody calls it the moon, every time you talk about it after that, it's the moon, right? So even if the fleets called it Luna, when you were out there in space, we're returning to Luna. They didn't call it the moon, but we call it the moon down here. So when I talk about it, I talk about the moon. And it was the same thing that happened with Darkfleet. It got a Nachtwaffen. Everybody translated it to Nachtwaffen. And so that in order for me to communicate and you know what I'm talking about, I just say Darkfleet. I didn't really ever give it much thought. So after recent things that have happened, I sat and really thought about it. And they always said 0 hour is here. When we were going to appear somewhere, that was their 0 hour is here. And when they meant midnight fleet. And because of that, it was named that because of 0 hour was what they chose when they acquired time travel. When they were able to travel time, when they could leave the solar system and time travel, when they could actually create the Rosen Bridge and time travel, they named it 0 hour. It's always 0 hour for them. And so it was midnight fleet, the midnight wolf. So, and then we translated it. The guys down at the bottom of the ship, we spoke English. It was Middernacht Wolf. I'm not saying it wrong. So we called it the Midnight Wolves. We were the Midnight Wolves. That's how we did in English. We had tons of nicknames. So for somebody to say like this is the name of it and that's not the name of it, there's not entirely going to be correct because there were many names. There was an official name, an acronym that was on the side of the building. Like on the side of the hangar, there were a bunch of letters, like a dozen letters that meant different things, for the long acronym. So our parking stall, I wrote it in my book. It was like CKG or MDW CKG MVL. That was our parking stall. Had that on the Middernacht Waff, Ceres Colony Gesellschaft, Max von Laue. That was our parking, you know what I mean? So, but basically it was the Midnight Fleet.
Wow. And you mentioned when I was talking to you the other day, you mentioned something about jokingly calling them the waffles.
The waffles, yeah,
Yeah.
the night waffles. And we always said, you know, waffen, because so all of the terms that we're talking, those words, so there's a lot of German words that have 2 or 3 meanings. Even the nickname that I have, gerusted, has like 3 different meanings, like burnt or cooked or oxidized, rusted. It has all these different meanings. And it was the same thing for the fleets, for the ships. And they did that. They wanted to stay vague because if they went and ticked off an ET race, they didn't want them to know where it came from. They wanted a certain amount of I can't have trouble with the word, anonymity. And that's what they did that on purpose. So to say that, you know, I've got this nickname of it and you've got that nickname of it, and so you're wrong, is not entirely accurate, because they had many names and they had code names and secret names that they would go to other systems and call themselves something else that was accepted, so that another ship could go there and do the same thing and know that who was there. But they didn't really have they didn't fly their banner everywhere loud and proud, because the mission was to acquire technology by any means necessary. And there were many times they did it unscrupulously.
Right.
We stole and we, you know, pillaged.
And there's actually operations projects here on Earth that changed their name. They changed the name of the operation or the project every so many years for research, to stay covert, I guess. So
Exactly.
they don't leave a trail behind. So they're constantly changing the name. So you can say, oh, so company was here doing this, but then you try and look up that company, they don't exist anymore, but they do exist. They're just under a new name.
Or
That's
they
right.
can say that project ended way back then, when in
Right.
fact they just changed the name and kept going.
That's absolutely right. The CIA program that I was originally in Inyokern was Grill Flame. And then it went to Center Lane, and then it went to Gateway, and then it went on to Stargate. When it changed names, it was the same exact equipment. It just kept, every time they upgraded, every time they figured something new out and they upgraded the system that they were doing, they just changed the name to the next thing. And the Midnight Fleet is the same thing. The Ceres Colony, you know, I was on the Ceres Colony, which was a division of the Midnight Fleet. So people are
if I was
the wrong stuff.
If I was to go and whistleblow on another planet about this deep state on Earth, and then somebody's trying to tell me, oh, they don't call it deep state, they call it the cabal, or they call it whatever, you know, Illuminati. Like there's different names for it. It's all the same thing. Exactly. It's kind of irresponsible, really.
When you try to explain it to somebody, so I work with a guy, like in my day-to-day job in my life, I work with a kid who's really open-minded, learning this stuff. He knows my information. So he comes at me, like in my work day now, I get questions. And it's hard to explain. Who's doing this? Who's behind it all? It's hard to explain because they've kept it that vague, because they're spread out the net of their influence and named it for that reason. Because if you can't put your finger on it, how are you even going to do anything against it? And that's kind of the situation. It's just hard for people that don't follow it, that are just breezing through the information. They want it all packaged now, and they want it in 5 minutes, and you just simply can't get it.
No,
the other thing about the Midnight Fleet that is completely absurd to me is to think that all of their information is on one hard drive. There's no way that's possible.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way that's one hard drive from one guy. Even the general, even the president of the place had not all the information. These are the most secretive organization in the history of all of mankind, with the highest amount of technology available and the most compartmentalized military programs in all of mankind. And somebody said, no, we got a hard drive with everything. We have everybody's on it, just on this hard drive right here.
That's a joke. Yeah.
So that's right. Anybody that's so fantastical. That is literally the most unbelievable thing of all of the secret space program that I've ever heard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a hard drive with some information on it, but just not the whole lot, like you're saying. And
I'm sure there's many. There wouldn't just be all on one, like you said, and then something happens, oh, there it goes. It's like,
Yeah, so they can all get murdered at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what NASA did with the moon footage, the moon landing footage. They claim to have misplaced or lost all of it.
yeah, they claim they lost
Yeah.
all of the
So just like that, you lose it all.
Oh, we just lost it somehow.
Must have dropped that hard drive in between the seat of your car or
Yeah.
something and lost it,
But they claim they lost like a ton of VHS tape, because that's what it would be with the technology.
Yeah.
Like a room full of VHS tapes.
Yeah,
Well,
not that it
building
was very
burned down,
historic or
or-
anything.
Yeah. What's interesting about William Tompkins, I'm reading his book, Selected by Extraterrestrials 2 right now. On mind-blowing detail, stuff you don't really get out of his interviews. I mean, it's basically you're reading his journal. That's what it is. But he talked about the moon landings, and he was basically watching it live. And he was watching a completely different feed than what the public was being fed. And his feed, that image that he drew of all the ships on the crater edge and then the little lander, Apollo, whatever rover in the middle, that's what he saw on the screen. That's not him guessing. That's exactly what he saw. And he has, what he's well known for is his photographic memory. That's how he was able to build these models with such accuracy, and he won awards. And they had to take the models out of the stores because he was just putting too much detail in his models, and it was disclosing like top secret locations of radar and weaponry. But he had this photographic memory. So that image you guys see of the UFOs on the crater in the moon, he claims that was something he witnessed live during the moon landing.
He was actually watching the real feed of it.
Yeah, according to his book, according to his
That had
journal.
to be amazing.
Right.
Well, we'll see. So this is one of these. So they pushed back the next moon mission to 2025.
Right.
Right. And we'll see, because I think that is kind of the plan for a public disclosure. I think that a moon mission, that everybody's watching it and they find a ruin or something. This is my hunch. I'm totally speculating. It's total hunch of mine, but I think that's what they originally had in mind, was to disclose that our aliens are out there, not down here. And so people could swallow it a little better. So I think that we're going to get a big disclosure around the moon missions, the Artemis missions that are going to go. It's my feeling that that's going to be the best time to do it. And so I'm really hopeful, man. I got my fingers crossed for it. I really do hope that we get a real thing, and it's not just this big bummer of people jumping around and digging rocks on the moon and that's it, because I think it's a golden opportunity to kind of get the ball rolling.
It is, and everybody wants to know what it's going to look like right now. There's so many theories on like when it's going to happen, what it's going to look like, how it's going to happen. It appears to me right now that we're not going to get what we want. At least the way it's looking right now. We're just going to get this slow, soft rollout, this trickle disclosure coming from the mainstream. And like the real disclosure has already happened. We're doing it here on this channel, all these whistleblowers. It's been, I mean, you can find everything you want. Go back to the 1940 and start researching from there on. You can come up with the most solid concrete case evidence that you ever would need to prove the existence of all of this stuff. And it still just doesn't get recognized.
Oh yeah, they came right out and said the UAPs, and nobody cared. It was a footnote on the headline. So yeah, that's where we're at. Until people can see how it's going to impact them directly, the mainstream is just going to continue chasing new shoes. That's how it is. That's just the way it is. But that's fine. People need to be happy, and that's whatever makes them happy. We would be happy with the disclosure. The masses maybe not so much, but I think we'll get something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because for us, it's just like a weight off our shoulders and like finally, but then for people who are really in the dark, that just are in the program, in the matrix, don't know, like that would be life shattering. If we got real disclosure, it would flip things upside down for those people. And it'd probably be a lot of denial. There might even be denial among truthers. I don't think we can probably comprehend what actually is going to come forward.
From day one, so years ago, when people go, what does a disclosure look like? I've been asked that question. What do you think disclosure is going to look like? There has to be a version of disclosure which leaves the people that we pay to protect us with the ability to protect us. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like there has to be a version of disclosure that we don't want, because most people, I think, are mature enough to handle it. Like they could just tell us everything, and really the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And I think most people can handle it.
Well,
But
yeah,
there's also bad guys up there. There's also bad things that can happen. We have the illusion of complete safety in our lives right now, and that's really not entirely the truth. And post disclosure, the treaty that protects us from ET species freely interacting, coming and going, and interacting. Right now, there's a treaty. There's ETs that are advanced that keep them off of us, the passers-by. So there's a treaty where so once there's a disclosure, that evaporates, and we're going to have our, the boogeyman is going to be back for real. So we have to be on a level that we can also deal with that. And so the people that we pay to protect us are going to have to be able to protect us post-disclosure.
Isn't that the reason for Space Force?
That's right. Well, and they're fledgling. So if we disclose today, Space Force, I think God bless them. I think I don't think they're ready to go online yet. You get what I mean? Like, I think that they're in the middle of tooling up for a disclosure, because we have to be able to defend the populace. Once the gate is down, once the treaty is down, and any species that flies through here, our neighborhood, which is a lot, and I feel like I'm the only guy that says it, I feel like I'm the only guy that's been in space, that's been participated in the secret space program, that says this. Everybody else is like, there's only like 10, you know what I mean? Like there's just the Andromedans and the Orions and then the Pleiadians, and that's it. That's not the case. Thousands, probably a week, come through our solar system and never come back, because the universe is that big and it's that easy to access. All the other systems are. So I think that's a reality that people are going to have to get their head around, is that not only is there life out there, but it's super teeming with
it's thriving.
Trillions,
Yeah.
trillions of different species can get here and go home in the same before noon.
And the building blocks for life look different in other parts of the galaxy, other parts of the universe. It doesn't have to be exactly the way it happens here on Earth. You don't have to be that Goldilocks planet. You can live under the ice. You can live underground. You can create your own atmosphere, whatever it is. Like there's multiple.
So pretty much every star, when you look up at the sky on a clear night and you see all those stars, there's a tin can, there's a colony around every single one of them. Every single star, there's somebody inside a rock around every single star. 7 out of 10 of those stars has an Earth around it. That's the rate throughout the cosmos. About 7 out of 10 has a habitable world. So when you look up at the sky, you see 3,000 of them. That's quite a bit. 2,100 of them have an Earth that has a civilization. May not be us, or versions of us from the people that seeded us in the first place.
Where they say there's 100 billion stars in our galaxy alone,
and there's 4 trillion galaxies or something that they're aware of. It keeps growing.
Do the math.
It keeps growing every year. It's like quadruples every year. They just keep discovering.
So
more.
essentially, it's just, you might as well just say there's an infinite amount of.
As far as we're concerned, yeah. As far as unless you live a million years old, and you can travel, then you might get you might get to know the neighborhood. But
yeah, exactly.
Anyhow,
people are asking about Laura. I'm waiting to hear from her. I don't know what happened. She was on earlier, but she had terrible connection.
She was driving home or something.
Yeah. We couldn't hear her. So she was mistimed it. She was running behind. So we're still waiting. She might still join us. So just hang with us, guys. And Jermaine said that I got to read his comment. Where is it at? Because it was good. Jermaine said, we're going to get full ET disclosure if I have anything to do about it, period. Yeah, that's Jermaine.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what? I love him, and we need him badly in all of this, because he's so passionate about everything he does. And so
yes,
I just love him.
Right.
Let me ask you guys. So what you said the disclosure you want, what does disclosure mean to you? What does it mean? Like, what do you think will happen?
To me, like, so we are disclosed. Like, to me, governments and all these institutions, they're all corrupt at this point. So it's like, why would we, for one, expect disclosure to come from them? It's never going to happen in true disclosure. It's just going to be some agenda, some partial disclosure with an agenda behind it that's not for the good of humanity at all. And two, it's like disclosure is, to me, what you're doing. It's what all the experiencers, they're telling, hey, this is my story, this is what happened to me. It's contact with the ETs themselves, which I'm sure will happen at some point. I mean, it's already happening just on an individual level. It's not, it's just not a widely known thing on a mass scale. But to me, I like all these governments and corrupt institutions that the cabal is like basically runs. Why, they need to go away because they're guilty of countless crimes against humanity and enslaving the whole planet and humanity. And then that's a big part of the disclosure, is all that information. So it's like, what's going to come first? We find out about that and then we rise up, or is it going to be they get taken out first and then we find out,
It's a couple different scenarios. We just don't really know. Yeah.
Or there's the theory that they've already basically been taken out, but we're just watching a movie play out. That is, they're allowing us to wake up more before revealing all of the information because it would cause too much chaos and all that stuff. And for other reasons, maybe what you said is a big reason for that. We're not fully prepared yet for the disclosure because we have to be able to defend ourselves and defend the planet. And maybe they're buying more time for that too. But yeah, disclosure is basically just full transparency. We're not living and we're not being enslaved. We're not living a complete lie of what the truth of all reality basically is, and the truth about the universe and ourselves. Even like, we don't even know who we really are, what our own history is, or our own DNA, and capabilities.
Right.
Our science, all our information we're taught is almost all wrong. It's almost all BS and not actually in line with universal truth and reality. So disclosure is all of that to me. It's just like truth and transparency with everything. And that's it. That's it. And freedom. And freedom is the most important thing there. Not being threatened by, with death or anything else for coming out with any information.
Freedom's a big part of it, but not entirely necessary. So I'm reading the chat here. People are popping off. That was a great question. I'm glad I asked it because it makes me think that, there's a version of disclosure where we learn about it in school and then we go back to the work at the factory. And then there's a version of disclosure where we can buy a ticket to another star and go visit. Yeah. And so I've always said that, the biggest thing we need really for where our society is right now, because we like to think that we have what I'm saying? We like to think that we have a grasp on technology, but really we're very primitive right now. So there's a version of disclosure where we just have access to their internet, which I think would be the best thing to happen to us immediately. There is a solar system wide internet. They have their own news, and they have all their guys used to come by on the ship and they had it on their little pads, and we would see it. Hey, today in the news, this happened over by Saturn, and there was news.
Really?
And so they have an internet that has all the data for not only our world, like our real history and things that are going on currently in the solar system, but like other worlds too, people that are other civilizations that subscribe to the same data. And so that would be huge. If we just had access to that, mankind would really, take off. We would really take off. Our value would soar. And then with that, we would get information on how to build our own things that do next level technology better. Like, think about the quality of life that the internet has given us since, I know you guys are super young.
but we do.
Always had internet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was like 11 when my family got the internet. So yeah, I was a kid.
Right. I was
98
in my 20. I was in the 20s.
But,
Yeah.
but we are fortunate enough to have a reference point what life was like before the internet. And even though we had it at that young of an age, we didn't use it hardly because it wasn't that great when it first came out.
Yeah. It was dial up for the first few years.
Yeah.
But nowadays, like you got to think so many people are more healthy because they can get a hold and look at diet. You can subscribe to stuff and learn how to work out. You can learn all kinds of stuff. Like it really advanced people. And you look at the kids these days, like they're smart. And then there's a huge social revolution going on. A lot of kids these days aren't showing up to work because they know they can do better. Know what I'm saying? They're not working all these crappy jobs because the internet has told them they can work from home. They can make their own stuff and do better than what McDonald's is going to pay them.
You can do it.
So they're not showing up
so easily these days. It's like,
that's what's going to happen to us.
Why? Exactly. Well, it's already happening. You're seeing it's like, and then it's like the internet has affected us, humanity's consciousness in a way that like information, at least, they're trying to censor as much as they can. Obviously the
genie's out of the bottle.
Exactly. The genie's already out of the bottle and information is so freely available. And we have like things like YouTube, even though the censorship there is crazy,
right?
But still, even with all that, it's like we can find all this stuff and we can do all these things and even make money online. We were just like, why would I sell my
work
life
in a
away
factory?
Work at a shitty job I don't like.
Well, we have information, all the information we need in the palm of our hand. I mean, obviously not everything, especially if you're using Google, but right. The censorship. Well, go ahead, Tony.
Well, I just looked at this. Philip Gillenwater. I'm watching the chat on my phone over here. It's great. I love you guys. I'm talking to the chat people. I love you guys. It's whenever I can read a chat on a live feed, it's just awesome.
It's fun. No, it's cool. Sometimes it gets distracting though, but go ahead. What are you reading?
And I'm totally distracted. So, but he said, does Tony believe the Dark Fleet has been defeated based on current events happening here on Earth? And I when I package things that may be termed as bad news, I stop and think about it. But there's no defeating the Dark Fleet. There's no defeating a fleet. There's no defeating a fleet that has been in space for a period of time because elements of that fleet are in other galaxies and colonies elsewhere. They've gone away. They've seeded the cosmos with outposts of themselves. So we can wipe them out of here all we want, out of our solar system and the next 10, 20 stars. You can go and drop. They can all drop dead. They're out there somewhere. There's another version of them somewhere.
That's what I was going to say. To me, defeating them doesn't mean wiping them out completely. It means expelling them from here, from our planet and our solar system. Yeah, from enslaving us basically and standing our own ground and be like having the ability to not only kick them out, but to not let them back in, and defend ourselves. And
thank you, Above Duality, for the donation. He said, thank you for all you're doing. JTT legends, we love you. Thank you so much, David. David Surgeon, guys, go check out his YouTube channel, Above Duality.
Yeah, everyone check out Above Duality. It's amazing.
We've had David on a previous episode. I don't remember which number, but it was a good one. Sorry to interrupt, guys. I just wanted to thank him for that.
Give that shout out.
Right.
And I'm being distracted by the chat again.
But yeah, exactly what you said. It's like because here's the thing, humanity, like we don't even, for the most part, most of us don't know about any of this stuff. We've been kept in the dark. So it's like our free will has been taken advantage of. Like we've been kept in the dark by this. We don't even realize it's going on. So we don't even have a chance to stand up to it. And the technology has been developed in secret and kept from us too. So it's like we have the technology, it's just being kept from humanity and in the hands of these dark groups.
That's an important point, Aaron, that I've thought about. It's kind of put a little bit of wind in my sails lately, because in the beginning, I just wanted to tell my story and then go home. Like people were like, are there anybody else been in space? And I was like, me, and here's my story. And I thought I was just going to do that and go home. And somebody else was going to run with it and go and disclose. And next thing you know, I was going to get secret space program on the 7:00 news on, you get what I mean? Like in the back of my mind, that's, I thought I'll tell my story and then I'll just get back to work, go back to being a dad.
Right.
And so now I'm like, the people that I thought were going to run with it have really dropped the ball. And really, the people that really came out and had a head start on the secret space program disclosure have totally dropped the ball, totally effed it up, and got egg all over their face. And so I'm like and other guys like me that came out that were friends of mine that spoke, that spoke it loudly and had a big audience, have got harassed so much that they dropped out. So it's like I'm the last guy standing from that first little crowd that's come out with evidence. Guys that had you had to be early on and evidence that corroborated with somebody else. You had to say, I was there and I saw a ball in the room. And then the next guy that never knew you told somebody else, like, yeah, I was there. There's a ball in the room. Yeah. And they go, what color? Well, it was red. And then they come back to me and go, what color was the ball? I go, it was red. And so that class of guys that disclosed, that came out, it's like, feel like I'm one of the last ones here. And so originally my story, my take was like, look, here's my story. Goodbye. Good night, folks. And now I'm like, look, you need to start telling people about this. You and everybody in the chat needs to go and tell somebody in their regular life, like, do you think that they abduct people and take them for 20 years and can do time travel? Do you think the government could do time travel? Do you think they have space and there's ETs everywhere? How many ETs do you think there are? We need to have these discussions, and we need to get the ball rolling, because we are going to disclose it, and we have to spread it word of mouth, brick by brick. We have to disclose. It's not going to happen on the news. It's not going to happen on some super channel. Gaia isn't going to give it to us. It's not going to happen. It's going to happen on.
It's going to happen here on Journey to Truth podcast. No.
Journey to Truth, right? Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. You got to feed. Right now. It's just disclosure is in our hands, and it's an ember.
And who cares?
It's an ember, and we have to blow on it until it's a fire, and then it'll catch fire. But right now, I mean, it started out good. It had a little flame, and now it's just a little ember. And so I'm like, man, I'm not going to shut up about it until, you know what I mean? I have to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and the only reason it sounds crazy is because humanity's been so kept in the dark and so psychologically manipulated that this information should be common knowledge. Like all the technology and all the stuff that sounds crazy should be normal.
Well, that's a good point.
It's crazy because we've been kept at this low level with this, we've been psychologically controlled, and now, this stuff, that sounds crazy in sci-fi. Those guys are just BS.
So somebody, Tony, actually just today on the last episode you did with us, somebody commented on that episode and they said, I call bullshit. Where's the evidence for this stuff? Blah, blah, blah. It's all talk, no show. Where's the sauce? You can't prove it. And I'm just like, that's the mindset we have to get past, because it's everywhere. It literally is everywhere. And I don't know, go ahead.
There's a ton of proof. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you, but there's a ton of proof. And so I can't give you 1 minute of proof. I can't tell you in a nutshell. I can say I predicted stuff that NASA proved. I found places that have been true. Just recently, Brad, it's in my latest Patreon show, so I would like to keep it for the subscribers, and it was in Detroit Disclosure. But Brad Olson went to Inyokern and FaceTimed to me live and walked up, and I called out stuff that was there that he goes, no, it wasn't there. And then he walked up and said, oh shit, there it is. And so there was proof. And then like we were talking before the thing about the makeup chalky soil on Ceres, like that was tonight, and that panned out. Like it's endless. I got hundreds of things that pan out. There's proof. There's a mountain of proof, but I can't just give it to somebody in a bullet point presentation and print it out.
The salt on Ceres. Remember you talked about that, and then they came out saying, "Oh, that bright light is actually salt." Right?
Yeah. Well, and it was 5 years. Yeah. Right. I called it out 5 years ahead of time. And not only that, but their original thing was that it was phosphorus and a bunch of other stuff. And everybody was like, Tony, are you sure you want to stick by your salt? Like I had straight up Dr. Sala was like, are you sure you want to stick by the salt? Do you want to amend your what you went on the record with? And I said, no, it's salt.
No,
and I held to my guns. And it was
like
5 years later.
Just making it up or something. Yeah.
It was 5 years later before I got the email that said you were right all along. And NASA came out with that. So
but this person was like, they even gave an example. Like, there's only been one good proof of UFOs that I've ever seen, and it was this blah blah and something. It was like
Billy Meyer was the only proof.
Yeah, that's what it was. Right.
Which I laughed out loud. That's hilarious.
If you don't see it at this point, you're choosing not to, and it's good not to just believe everything. That's the big thing right now.
I'm going to tell you. I'm sorry, Tyler. I always feel like I'm cutting you off when I hate it.
That's all right. Go ahead.
All right.
No, please.
I'll
you
tell
have
you
more
right
to
now.
say than I do.
The opposition that is funded by a 3-letter agency, they started out with just drowning out the info, adding out the info a year or two ago, and now everything they say is angry. They're coming out with anger, and it's like there's no proof. You know, instead of just talking, you know what I'm saying? Like when somebody is a dissipator, is an agent, a moral dissipator, a CIA, they're not coming at it with an intellectual debate. They're not coming at the debate intellectually because they'll get their ass kicked. They're coming at it immediately angry, so that people resonate that, and people feel kind of awkward when if there's 3 of us talking right now. If one of us was super angry and was yelling at the other one, it would shut us down because we're being cerebral, but the audience would also get shut down and be like, whoa, this is, you know, kind of getting out of hand. And they just disconnect from the info. They're there learning in a learning circumstance, in a learning situation. When somebody gets angry and yells, then it shuts it all off, and that's what they're doing. That's what guys like that are. He's calling BS on me. I'm calling disinfo on you, buddy.
Right. Well, and that's what happens because what happens then, nobody knows what to believe anymore. So it makes some people just want to check out altogether. Like, I don't know if this person's lying. I don't know if this person's lying anymore. Was it all lie? Is there even a secret space program? I don't know. You know what's easier? Just turn my head, look away, and let's go look at Hollow Earth theories.
Well, to a lot of these people, their definition of proof is like a photograph or a video, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't expect that with something like this, because why would you be allowed to take a photograph with you or have video?
There is Navy video now.
Exactly.
There's photos in Navy video, and that's not enough proof.
But to them, they're like, oh, they don't have that, so it's BS. They don't have the proof. That's the only acceptable.
Channel 7 News saying there's ETs. Here we are.
Right.
Yeah.
And even then they won't believe it.
Oh, the news didn't report on it. Yeah.
That's the proof. But if it was real, it'd be in the news, Aaron.
Well,
if it was real, yeah.
What we're seeing now
Why isn't this in the news if it's real?
What we're seeing now is divide and conquer tactics. I mean, it's seriously, it's exactly what it is. Like, we've been warned about this division for a long time by a certain individual, and then now this certain individual is literally causing the division. And if you question him, you'll be deleted and blocked from his chat, like I was.
Look, I don't care what field you're in or what. And literally anyone who is saying, I am the only source of information, disregard everything else, that's a massive red flag, and that is not okay. No matter what, I don't care what your excuse for that is. That anyone saying I am the only real person, everyone else is fake, to me, that's a big red flag that either they're fake or they're trying to exclude everyone else because they want to be they want to be the main guy,
or they're blindly believing their handlers,
or they're being manipulated. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's with these people, this goes with everybody. Not just SSP, all information, any insiders, right? If you have all these people preaching discernment, but they're not discerning the information coming from their source. So like, okay, you tell us to use discernment, but what about, have you never questioned who's on the other side of the curtain from the information you're getting? It's coming from somewhere, and it's not that individual because they're getting it from somebody else. And how many of these big names, these public figures now are just talking heads, are being used as puppets? Oh, look, Laura Eisenhower is here.
And look, that doesn't mean that that person's story is fake necessarily. Like, that could be real. And I think it is with this person, but it doesn't mean he's not compromised now. It doesn't mean, the info he's getting now is just because his story is real. It doesn't mean, I'm sorry. Now we have to take literally everything he says as gospel.
I'm sorry, you're talking about somebody? I don't know.
No.
Anyhow, what other source of information? No, really. What other source of information out of all information says I'm the only source?
Yeah.
Because none of them do. Because nobody does. Because it's information.
No,
so anybody that say that I'm the only source is like they're selling something other than information.
Yeah, exactly. like, for one, there's no way he can possibly know that. There's no way anyone can possibly know I'm the only person with the real information.
Right.
So that doesn't even make sense on that level.
There's red flags. I mean, here's what happened. Like all I did was I went into Corey's chat, because that's who we're talking about.
Ooh.
And I said, I questioned him, and immediately everybody saw I was attacking him. Well, no, I got attacked. I mean, obviously
you, yeah,
I did, but everybody thought that I was attacking him, but they mistook me questioning for attacking. And instead of like having a conversation, I ended up just getting deleted from the chat, from the group. So when you're not even allowed to question somebody, and they tell you that you can only get your information from them, that's a cult.
You were saying,
cult.
hey,
that's the answer. It's a cult.
Right.
Well, I'm a
not
cult
even a
member of
religion.
the difficult. I'm the diffa.
So Laura, what's going on?
Laura.
Thank you.
I'm a cult member, and call me diffa.
Difficult. Thank you for joining us. How's it going?
Really good. Sorry, I'm showing up a little late, you guys.
It's okay.
You guys
All
been on
good.
for how long before I came on? Like an hour?
It doesn't matter. 40 minutes, maybe.
45, 50 minutes.
So
Really
Laura.
looking forward to this event. So.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about that yet, guys.
Oh my God. Okay.
So Laura and Tony are going to be.
We haven't promoted any products.
Laura and Tony are going to be speaking at our conference next May 2nd through the 5th. And if you guys want to know all the details about that link is below, secretspaceconference.info. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And actually, it's really cool that we're doing it. I wanted to do it to give credibility to this space program that's getting laughed at now. And I kind of wanted to build a case for it and let people come and meet some of these guys who and ladies who are making the claims and feel their energy themselves. And, it's so nice to be able to meet these people in person and talk to them, engage them that way instead of just through a computer screen all the time or in a chat room.
In person's a big deal.
Right.
And, that's why, like I said, when I went to Vegas thing, I got to meet people in person, and you really get a feel for somebody. Maybe not everybody, maybe I'm weird or something, but when you meet somebody in person, you really get an idea of where you stand and where they're coming from. And body language tells a lot, but energy tells a lot. And so meeting us in person, I think, is a big deal, especially if you're on the fence. Come on out, question us. Question me. I'm cool with it. You know what I mean?
Laura, so what the hell's going on? What do you think? What are your thoughts on these current times? My favorite part about having you on the show is getting you triggered to get you on a rant.
Wow.
I love when she goes on her rants. It's amazing.
Full disclosure.
Because I feel, no, here's why. Because whenever she rants, I think you're channeling, because you just start spitting out gold sometimes, and it's awesome.
Agreed.
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna deliver tonight as far as that's concerned, because I've been trying to curb that because a lot of people complain. But thank you for appreciating it about me. How I feel about these times is it's pushing us to the edge to access our capacity to create synchronicities and miracles and step into aspects and areas of ourselves that have been largely kept dormant. And through a lot of the propaganda and narratives and indoctrination programs that we've seen, want to just kind of keep it locked out and locked down. And anybody that opens that up is like, ooh, crazy, ooh, woo woo, this or that. And sometimes those vaults are open and they're misrepresented. So the best way we can move forward is come back to center. We don't have to externalize anything. We can be inspired by each other, but we don't have to follow anything, follow any teaching, any dogma. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. If it's telling you how to think, it's no different than dogma, even if it's not considered religious. At the end of the day, we need to hold hands. We need to rehabilitate together. We need to have each other's back. We need to accept the difficult and dark places that we go through and go into, to remind each other of the light on the other side of it all, not the false light at the end of the tunnel, even though, that has its legitimacy, but that inner light of wisdom that can illuminate itself in the face of utter darkness. And in times of utter confusion and not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring, it's helping us to illuminate that light.
Man,
And to me, that is the ultimate savior, is wisdom.
that was
So-
like a beautiful Shakespeare performance there, Laura. way to come bring in that feminine and balance everything out for us.
Yeah.
That was great, and you're absolutely right. And something that you've mentioned before in the past is what you call trigger events, and that's what we're seeing a lot of right now. Even like this Kyle Rittenhouse thing, how many people got triggered over that? I mean, yeah, like it might have looked like a victory for us, for the Second Amendment and all that stuff, but then you're seeing videos that look like a green screen and the guy's foot's disappearing, and how much of it's actually a show. There's, some of
Yeah,
it's
so it's like, was this whole thing a psyop or
right
distraction from other stuff? Or
and now he's not posting pictures with Trump. It's like, okay, this isn't just a normal scenario here. This is very well planned out, I think.
Right. And then he collapses. It's like, wow, that was pretty epic. And I hope the false flags. This is the thing with AI. It can mimic and imitate pretty much everything and anything. But when we can stand in sovereignty and go into that neutral zone and literally feel our heartbeat in the void, it erases and nullifies all these different tactics used to kind of pull us in, right? When people get into those stories or get pulled into those stories, whether they're true or not, we lose our space to those things. It doesn't mean we want to give up on compassion or empathy or curiosity or like, oh my God, what is that story? But we have to be able to see it from a space of neutrality as much as we can, because there is so much BS in theater.
Right. Theater. It's literally like a movie. Like, we don't know if these people are wearing masks, if it's CGI, if it's deep fakes, there's green screens, all the above. I mean, it's almost not even worth turning on your TV. And I actually mean that. I mean, don't get any.
Maybe it was maybe it was one, distracting from things like the Ghislaine Maxwell thing going on, two, to start chaos, because they knew if this trial happened and then he was not guilty, then a bunch of riots are going to start, and then they want that to get out of hand, and maybe they're trying to start a civil war. Maybe they're trying to start, well,
they are.
To me, that seems the most likely, if it was a fake setup thing.
Well, and that's the question. Like, even if it was, people are asking, well, why? What's the point? Don't know. I don't know. But all of a sudden, Rittenhouse.
Maybe it's a problem reaction solution. They're trying to start chaos so they can come in with some
loose.
Exactly, right. Creates loose. They can come in with now we got to lock down everything, and who knows what their solution would be to the chaos.
The Rittenhouse trial is, and the coverage about it and the responses to it are a bunch of giant lies to cover up the original lie, where and here's the original lie, that it was a peaceful protest, because these were guys really, and they tried to turn it into a race issue, but these were a bunch of white guys beating up on a white guy. It had nothing to do with race, and it had nothing to do with the protest. He was there, you know what I mean, like trying in a police action. We had a Black Lives Matter protest in my town, and it was a great protest. I went to it, and there were guys with guns protecting the businesses. These guys were ex-army. Apparently there's like a VA, whatever fraternity or something that they organized, and they were here. There were dudes in body armor and guns standing on the corner in my town, right in my city. And they were protecting the businesses, and they stayed on their half, and the rally happened over by the lake and stayed on their half. They sang their songs, they did everything. It was peaceful. It was great. And so this was something, that protest had a provocateur. So remember, the CIA ops are mole, mole, dissipator, and provocateur. And that they had these guys that died and were shot were provocateurs. They had guns. One guy beat him with a skateboard, and these were white guys beating on white guys. But they turned it into a race thing because it's a slide reflex. Everybody's been programmed. Like, I can't even talk about race. I can't even talk about it.
He's a white supremacist, which
which automatically gets that branding. So it was just big lies to cover up the original lie. And so it's over. It's behind us. I tune into the news sometimes just to see what they're lying to us about. It gives you the idea. It lets you know what page they're on.
Anything the media is trying to push is a lie, and it's for an agenda that is not for
a purpose.
your
It's for
best interest.
for a result. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It is manipulation to the max for a results, like you said.
Well, and so there's an, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Laura?
Well, I'm disagreeing. It's I'm going to do a long pause because I usually talk fast. It's like, oh my God, she has something to say. Like, literally.
No, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just thought you were getting ready to say something.
Agreeing with everything you guys are saying. Most psychological operations are to create inversions to the growth period or breakthrough that humanity is about to go through. So, you know, we have collective consciousness. We have the micro world and how that collects or connects with the macro. So our own personal journey connects with the collective consciousness. So micro, macro. So every time we're about to take a huge leap, whether it's in our personal life or on a collective level, there's some sort of attack or sabotage. And in the face of that, we have to ask ourselves, do we become victimized? Do we give our power away? Or do we accept the challenge and move into the terrain of gaining more self-awareness, humility, and ability to access, you know, these greater treasures? They're so threatened by what we're going to reclaim that in their attempt to try and steal it from us is where we need to be more empowered to retrieve it and not allow it. You know, once you know the bully mentality, they can't pick on you anymore. In actual fact, you turn their weapons into a tool for your own growth, and it ends up going back on them to either learn or grow from, or to have it completely annihilate it and turn into space dust. I did a recent video message to Hollywood. I took it down off YouTube. I'm going to put it somewhere else. But it's like, with all love and forgiveness and understanding, what sort of scenario allows you to enable something that's right under your nose? So as much as you're like into the Me Too movement stuff, people with so-and-so groping on you, even though you dated them, where do we get to the nitty gritty about what's really going on with human and child trafficking and pedophilia? So I feel a lot of these stories are no different. A total cover up and a distraction.
Well, it's a distraction. So we don't even talk about that stuff anymore. Right? They don't even covering that stuff is what they don't want. So, you know, they're going to create these surface level events and these surface level disclosures that aren't actually disclosing anything. And, you know, the people who aren't aware get excited about it, but there's so much of a deeper issue here that I don't think that many people can comprehend it. And if some of the stuff we've heard about this trafficking and these tunnels and stuff, if any of it's true, it's horrifying. And I really do believe that is the case in some places. And there are real articles being that are leaking, that are sneaking out. Not many people see them, but they're busting some small rings of people. You know, they're actually arresting people, sex traffickers and stuff. It's not just like nothing's happening, but we just don't hear about it.
Right. So with like Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And so if you don't mind me asking, like, Tony, you know, you've experienced being trafficked to billionaire parties, right?
Yes.
When you see what's going down on the sort of mainstream or even just more protected and censorship-free platforms, are you feeling encouraged? Do you feel like this is being exposed, or do you feel, I mean, like, how are you processing what you're seeing based on what you've gone through?
Okay, it's a big issue with me, and I for the most part don't like to talk about it because it's like a porcupine. But it was funny to me to watch their response in the very beginning, in 2016, when we had the Hillary emails and the Pizzagate and the letter 17 came out with info on all this. It was heartbreaking to me because I came out in 2015 with my information and what I remembered. And it was like, I was just saying what I remembered. I wasn't trying to connect dots. I was just like, it was part of my entire memory that I got back. So I included it, and it turned out to be true. It turned out that they did. And watching the actual media response. So at first they were like, There's nothing. These guys aren't true. This just, we don't even know what you're talking about. And they didn't acknowledge it. They just ignored it when they were confronted with pedophilia and in the politics, like they were having these sex parties and bribing officials. They never even commented. They just acted like nothing happened. This cute guy is a conspiracy guy. Now that we're post the 2020 election, now they're going after it. Now it's a conspiracy theory. Everything that now they're trying to cover it up with they're trying to bury the history of it so that people that go and even research it later, well, now that it's history, because the Trump administration is history, and that whole genre of the Q, and they're talking about all that, the pedophilia and all that's all in our history books now. Now we've got the big effort by them. They're spending big bucks, HBO documentaries, on and on, Yeah. Every single Washington Post, they're coming out and calling it all a conspiracy theory, and it's a huge crime because it's our history. And so,
yeah.
Well, that's what. Go ahead, Tony.
I don't have some people always say to me, like, why aren't you angry? Why don't you do something about it? And I'm like, well, I am. I'm sitting here right now. And I'm not angry about it. I'm not angry about it because it was in the past. So what's anger going to do? I don't want to end up in jail over this.
You don't want to dwell on that frequency anyway.
Right. And I don't want to, I don't want to spook everybody that there's a boogeyman coming to get them either. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just feed it. So it's a technology to them, and it's an action that goes in and produces a certain result to these people, because that's all they're about. It's all they're about is getting a mechanism that works. And that's what it is. And so it's hard for me to try to get my head around it and understand it. I look through history, the cannibalism, like I'm still studying it. At that party we were at, Laura, in Mount Shasta, I bombarded Brad. I chewed his ear off where he was like, get away from me, man. I was going at him with the history of Canada, because he's ancient aliens.
You tried to like literally eat his ear, like.
Yeah.
No, but I was like, I dumped everything on him at once. I was like, hi, can I sit by? I was like, by the way, do you know that there were cannibalism?
No, I think he was global? Like really blown away and like honored, like,
No, he was like,
at a party.
Chill.
I'm like, my God, so grateful.
I think he was like, dude, chill. That's a little much.
No,
so I was a little passionate about it.
I look at everything through this weird lens, which I'm not sure is accurate, even though we're truthers, right? We're connected to truth frequency, but your humbleness might not notice. Oh my God, Brad Olson thinks a world of you. But I know I felt awkward at that party. Remember, we were trying to cross that pond with that board and there was no light. It's like
barely. I was,
really cool.
Sounds like a good party.
I hadn't drank in a while. I drank quite a bit.
Parties are not the same without Journey to Truth.
Right.
But,
well, hopefully we'll be able to party at our conference.
That party. I was at that conference. I saw you guys.
So, but what I want, touching back on that. So I'm just right now at this point, I'm just trying to get my head around why they do it and how they enable to have the balls to do what they do. And so now we're seeing the concerted, the powers that be really trying to bury it. And that's our job, to not let it get buried. It's like that simple.
So the cabal is like a big giant narcissist. And what does a narcissist do? They rewrite history so they're not held accountable. That's what they're doing every day. They're trying to rewrite history in real time. In real time.
They lie.
Right.
They emotionally manipulate.
And they're taking advantage of the understanding of the brain computer. We're electric, magnetic, we have emotions, we have creativity, but we also have the logical kind of brain, kind of factual thing. So when a vision or an intent manifests, there is scientific data behind how the physics behind it were able to produce it, which would be like, oh, science. What I hated about school and growing up in the school system, just like all of us, is just science doesn't appreciate consciousness or spirituality or our capacity to co-create. It's just like, this is a junk DNA, and science felt like the controllers. And every class that I took, and it wasn't like, I was just going to drift off and do a bunch of LSD. I was just like, fuck you. You're not even coming close to covering the best education, which is listening to the children and the people. If an open forum could happen where it's like, pass the talking stick. It's like the genius of the children and the souls that have been born, doesn't matter how old they are, children, adults. I feel the only way we can really get an education is through listening to each other, not regurgitating something that we got in a textbook.
Right. Well, what did they
That's
do?
like obvious, right? So anyway,
Right.
just talking the obvious.
Well, what do they do? I mean, most of it's busy work. It's not actually education. There's teachers that I had classes where they're like, yeah, just read this chapter and answer questions on. The teacher doesn't do anything.
It teaches you to be obedient and a good slave.
Right. And then, and like,
terrible slave.
That's all the education system is.
Well, here's
essentially
how screwed up it is, though. You could ace a test, but if you used a red pen instead of a pencil, you failed it because you didn't follow directions. Like they're teaching you to comply more than actually educating.
Obey
you.
Authority. Don't question. Right. Be a good little slave.
But
and I remember like what was that?
They try to stifle creativity and your own spirit, basically, so that they want that suppressed, and they want you to be a good slave that obeys authority and is a good worker in the system. That's all.
That's why a prison and a school is the same building, literally.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. Public.
And Tony went through. You were pulled out of schools. Like, okay, so you got your SATs, you got your, what do you call it? Intelligent tests. Well, it was a sort of bully scenario where a father of a kid got pissed and was just like, they knew that you were an advanced soul. So you weren't even like a typical bully. Like your entry into the secret space program is a lot different than other people.
Right. I was shuffled in through the side door or the back door. They had access. It was somebody that had access that just threw me in there because they could. And as to make themselves feel better about me not getting along with their kid. It was that simple. So
it's like revenge. It's like revenge. Do I seem very
Right. Well, people acclimate to treating people a good way or a bad way. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when somebody gets very wealthy, they get to say whatever they want. They treat people badly all the time because they can just hire somebody different. So it gets normal it normalizes it, right? So these people were normalized. It was normalized to have people abducted to them. So you get what I'm saying? Like he was somebody that had that kind of level of access to where they were like, I don't like what that guy says. Let's throw him in a prison let's put him in a 20 back and throw him in hard labor for 20 years because I don't like that guy. It was somebody that literally had that kind of power. And what that means is that I've always said that, even proving my memories to myself, like it's hard to get on stage in front of a bunch of people that never heard of any of this before and explain it to them and make it make sense and make it where they don't think I'm crazy and not feel embarrassed. I do. Sometimes I talk in front of a crowd and I'm like, this sounds embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like I would call BS on me if I was in the crowd and somebody.
Oh my God. Well, that's why we're soul family and we're all connecting together and we're doing this conference because
exactly
a whole other level. Like I can't even imagine. So keep going. I just had to say, I feel you, my brother, my soul family friend. I know I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
Oh, it's okay. But you know what I'm saying? So if I can trust some of my memories, I have to trust all of them at the same level. So that's what that is. And so basically that means that these people, if this all happened to me, I've proved it to myself and I've proved it to other people and researchers and the proof. That means that it's happening to other people. That means that the same guy that grabbed me, that pulled me out of, I was a 10-year-old boy. That means that other people have that kind of authority or power or whatever you want to say it. And that means they're out there right now. So that means other people are being subjected to possibly to the same kind of stuff. Or, not only that, but I believe that there were other kids taken from my school that went through a less traumatic experience. They were taken because he liked them. Do you get what I mean? Like, I think that there were other kids that he got his friends.
What does that mean? They're going to molest them? It's like, sorry. Like I'm creating this thing in my mind where you might want to think again before you molest me. I got through my fucking middle finger and my every fucking finger. I'm gonna annihilate your fucking balls, and I don't know what. No, you're done.
Well,
They're done.
I also feel that there is a form of karma out there, that what comes around goes around, and these people have ways to just deny it or avoid it for a long time, so where they feel like it doesn't happen. But I feel that, you know, what ultimately the energy you put into one consciousness puts an energy into another consciousness, finds its way back to you, and it magnified. And so that, I think, you know, that's why I kind of let it go, because I've had that happen in other parts of my life. I've seen it happen where, you know, something bad happened to me and I just kind of let it go, and then watch it come right back to that person, because they were okay with it. They were okay with doing something bad. Your intention is what dispels karma. So I don't really, you know, I don't know. They're going to have to learn. That's what is, just as we are primitive, the people that are in charge of our secret space programs are primitive as well. And they're the same kind of monkey as we are. So they've got to learn lessons.
Can we ever make sense out of participating in evil? Like, we can be really down on ourselves, or like, you know, maybe to the breaking point to where we would want to participate in evil, but yet there's a breaking point where one says, I choose God, I choose love, I choose self-awareness, I choose healing. Why in the threshold and the crossroads does somebody choose to, I don't know.
Well, a lot of it is programming. A lot of it's programming. Some people don't know anything different. If you're born into it, that is your normal. Even one time on Dr. Phil of all shows years ago, there was this girl who had
Dr. Phil, like Oprah's best friend. Dr. Phil?
Yeah, but listen,
be cool though.
No, I'm not giving him any props. What I'm saying is he had a sex traffic victim on his show, and she didn't know anything else. And she was telling the crowd, the audience, she's like, I actually miss it. She missed that lifestyle. Like, she didn't know what to do being out of it and being saved. She didn't know how to be.
That's a really good point.
So that's all they know. So when these people are born into it, it's literally like they are on a different level of consciousness than us, or different plane of existence. I don't know, it's really sad.
And
learning to let go of whatever it is, throughout life, your whole life, like learning to let go is a level to the soul, right? So learning to let go of wherever you was, because how many times, like, just moving, like every little thing, like I'm like sentimental about stuff in my living room, and so if it breaks,
me too.
If it breaks, I'm like,
interrupt, but like I literally cried my eyes out because I was gonna miss the oak floor of this fucking rundown shitty apartment. I was like literally crying my eyes out. I'm like, I've moved so many times, like 30, 40 times. I'm like, I'm crying because I'm gonna miss this thing that I had a connection and relationship with. So I just had to throw that. I didn't mean to interrupt. So keep
right. And you have to let go of things that are bad that happen to you, and you have to let go of things you love constantly. That's what life is. Life does that to all of us, and it's a skill. Some people are awesome at it, or some people I'm like, wow. Some people can just move on.
You should be a part of the Olympics. Like, oh my God,
right?
Like, oh, Olympics. Like, like
the let goers. Yeah, like
Well, no, it is. That's the biggest thing, because if you can achieve that, then you can grow. And it's when we hold on to these things, we're stunting our growth. We're holding ourselves back. It's like our own ball and chain. Our limiting beliefs are the ones that keep us enslaved. And it's learning to let go of that. It's absolutely right, Tony.
You should keep going with that. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just couldn't help to just add my 2 cents there.
No, you're good. You're good. I think, were you done, Tony? Right?
Yeah.
Your book, Tony, somebody mentioned your book in the chat. What's the timeline on that? What's it looking like?
Close. So I wanted to have it by December 1st, but I'm in the end of it, and I keep going back to things that I said in interviews and adding stuff in. So the last really, and I've told this, you guys interviewed me in the past, and I said the same thing. I was like, everybody wants to talk about Mars or they want to talk about the early years. Like once I start in the story and get to it, by the time then we get to the end of the 2-hour interview, and it's like, oh, you know what? I was on a spaceship on Ceres, and boom, we got to go by. Maybe next time. And so those memories don't get exercised much. And so now as I'm writing it in the book, like I'm literally still remembering things, like because in the book form, Jackie and I are editing it, and she comes back with questions, and I go, things that nobody ever asked me before, and I have to stop and remember. And I go, wait a minute. Like we were talking about the soil earlier, I was telling you guys we were editing the book tonight, and we were talking about when I was in the mines and what was the dirt like. She asked me, what was the dirt like? And I said, no one's ever asked me that before. It was chalky. It was like chalk. And started, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's where I'm at. So that we're just, in order for it to make sense to everybody, she's always giving me grief. She's like, you don't describe anything. You're just telling what happened and move on. And in order to make it sense so that the reader can really get their head around it, we're filling it out. And then plus she got married last week. So she took a week off. She's on honeymoon. So we're editing the book. I got to think I've got like 4 days of editing and it's done. And then I'm going to send it off. Dr. Sala has agreed to write the foreword. So nice. I'll send it to him. He's going to read it real quick, which I imagine will go fast, and he'll write the foreword and get back to me, and it'll go straight to Amazon. So hopefully end of December. Tentatively, I'll say it like that, middle of December, hopefully by Christmas.
Beautiful.
The book will be out. So I'll definitely have it at the Secret Space program. I will definitely have copies there for you guys. Yay. And I will have them for available for people there. I will be autographing. I'll practice the best signature I can, but I will definitely have them.
Right? It's like
I got to practice, you know what I mean? Or maybe just an X.
Where can people find that?
TR.
So right now the pre-order is, man, I got to look at the count, but we sold most of the pre-orders. We offered 100 copies for $100, and we sold most of them already. And so that's on the website, TonyRodrigues.com. I will put when the book goes to Amazon, and the link that'll be on my website, TonyRodrigues.com. And I'll be begging you guys to come back on here and promo the book. You too, Laura. I want to be on everybody's show and just go and talk about it.
Anytime. Yep. I got your back, and I live to promote everything that you do. And, I just have nothing but gratitude for all that you have given to the collective and the blessing that you are. So, oh my gosh, I look
coming
forward.
From you. That's huge. Thank you so much. That's amazing to me. I'm like,
just roll it off my tongue. I mean, the truth.
I do want to say that there are some. So it's not going to win a Pulitzer, right? So it's not some kind of like super poetic thing. It's not Mark Twain. It's not exactly Mark Twain. But I am proud of the book. There are things that I'm reading in the book where I look back on it and I'm like, this is good stuff. I mean, people that read this are going to be blown away.
Mark Twain might be like, oh my God.
Mark Twain,
the spirit of Mark Twain's like, oh my God.
In the Secret Space program.
What's interesting about that, Tony, is that what was I saying earlier about reading William Tompkins' book and his testimony? There's so many details in there that he just doesn't put in his interviews, because when you're writing, there's a different you're recalling a different way than when you're talking. So there's a lot more that he has written. So I imagine that your book will be the same way. Like, you just can't get it all from the interviews.
It's a lot more personal. It's personal stuff. It's like it's the people that I was with. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of info about the people that I worked alongside or people that I lived with while I was out there. And that's really what filled out in the book story versus an interview. And then I'm still going back and keeping it all, like I've got to cover a lot of the technical stuff from my interview that I've shared in interviews. I'd hate to have something in an interview and then it not be in the book and people go, wait a minute, I saw in your interview, why didn't you talk about that? So I'm kind of that's what I'm doing right now, is filling that stuff out in the later chapters. I'm in the last 2 years of the 20 and back. That's getting filled out, and we're more than halfway edited. So as soon as that's done, it goes, like I said, it goes on its trip and it'll be done. And thank God, because I'll be happy when it's over.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for putting all the work in. I'm looking forward to it. I got myself a pre-order copy. So
thank you, sir.
Right. No, it's going to be awesome. I know it is. So we're moving into the age of Aquarius. I know this is Laura's, this is her forte.
Jam.
Right. So
really? Yeah, sort of, maybe.
Well, So, I mean, it's moving into this love frequency essentially. It's a frequency where the darkness can't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
So
can't exist.
it's all inevitable. Yeah, we might take a few steps back sometimes. It might not look that great, but it's inevitable. We're moving into that energy, into that age of, I don't know, golden age, whatever you want to call it. But and we don't know what that's going to look like. But what do you see, like, as far as astrologically, what kind of changes are taking place?
Well, when you talk about the inevitable is what I feel our greater potential. Like ultimately, no matter how many times we fall down, no matter how many times we might get it wrong or not understand it, the inevitable is that a realization, an epiphany, an awakening is going to take place. So we can get lost in these time loops and even genetic modification of ourselves to then have to put ourselves in a position of, oh my God, what was I thinking? Or where am I? To open up the gateways to a greater epiphany that starts the healing process. I don't feel that there is anything that can't be healed, restored, corrected, and transformed or alchemized. And so in these times, particularly November 30th, the sign of Ophiuchus is really lit up, and it's ruled by the ether and the asteroid Chiron. So as we move through the zodiac signs, the calendar year, there's something very significant that is present that has not been present for quite some time. So as of 2010, it began to become present. November 30th to December 17th. So when you look at the 13th sign, it's like, oh, well, how does that fall into place at this time of year when we're going from, Libra, all right, 7, 8 Scorpio, 9 Sagittarius, 10 Capricorn. Where does the Ophiuchus fit in? Like people are like, do I need to change my whole astro chart? Well, it's an overlay, but not an overlay like the reversal grid network, like Nephilim reversal grid and Niberian Diodic crystal reversal grids put in place. This is part of the greater corrections that has to do with the Venus transits. So where this falls into place is not going to be like, oh, no, that's the 8th. No, that's the 7th. No, that's the 9th planet. No, it's the 13th, which actually is the center of the zodiac wheel. It's the 0-point unified field. So as much as it might fall into place between November 30th to December 17th, what this particular phase does is it pulls us into the 0 point so we can begin to collapse the negative patterning of a lot of the different planetary alignments that have made it very easy for us to be siphoned and fed upon. This planetary consciousness is very interesting in the fact that it's not just like earth, fire, water, earth,
Air.
Thanks. I'm like, now we got ether, and the ether energy has been very, so, all right, let's just put it down to the symbology of Satanism with the inverted pentagram, which also relates to the reversal 55, which has to do with the manipulation of the dodecahedron, which has to do with the ether. Now that the ether is available, it's not about belief systems or, oh yeah, it has to be all about mother or goddess. No, it's about, can we hold space for ourselves to connect to something that can purify the nucleic acids of our DNA and our elementals, earth, air, fire, water. When the ether comes in, it can clear and clean all that up. And it's not about punishment or judgment. It's about unconditional love and the ability to be honest enough with ourselves. And it busts down new age bullshit, and it busts down religion, and it busts down like whatever outer authority is trying to infect us with how we should be, how we should respond, and how we should live. And so when we determine on our own terms how we should live and exist, sovereignty or being rebellious doesn't mean being out of control or being irresponsible. It's saying, I have the ability to be free. But
Right.
freedom isn't just doing whatever you want, killing people and just being a fucking lunatic. No, to me, freedom is more connected to God source, goddess, integrity, compassion, and understanding that diversity and harmony is oneness. Our differences are not a problem. If you want to live your consensual life different than me,
Right.
why would I
Differences.
have to have an issue with it? It's like, I wouldn't. As long as a person's not harming somebody who is like, no, I don't want that. And they're saying and screaming, I don't want that. And they're still doing it. I mean, there's multiple forms of rape in our culture and society. It's not just sexual. But when we can stand in our integrity and in our truth and say, hey, here's my boundaries. This is what I want to manifest and create. And we stand true to it. And people are throwing stones like, you're not allowed to do that. You need to think like me. And it's like, whoops, sorry, to them. I feel this is where we need to find a common ground of acceptance. It's like, it's not about right or wrong. It's about love or lack of love. And the lack of love means you can invade somebody's space and you can manipulate them and you can intrude upon their space because you have some sort of narcissistic tendency. That has nothing to do with politics or religion. That has to do with being a shit fuck asswipe. It has nothing to do with politics or religion. It comes down to, who are you? Can you accept other people's way of being? Can you accept your own? And can the differences that we all hold be a blessing instead of detriment? Doesn't mean we all have to think the same. It's like, maybe somebody wants to have like 100 wives, if the 100 wives agree, who am I to be a moral cop about it? It's like, as long as y'all are in agreement, yay, that sounds great for y'all.
Yeah.
If I want to just have a monogamous, like true love thing that makes me feel that or it doesn't matter what people decide.
Right. We should cherish our differences. I mean,
exactly. That's, I guess, my point. Which
Yes.
Cherish the differences because I mean, it's actually
that recently. Sorry. Yeah, totally. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's the differences that's fascinating to me. Observing other ways of life and how people live in other cultures and all that stuff. That's diversity, and that's so key right now. Right now they're trying to turn us into zombies, and basically they're hijacking the individuality of the people. They want everybody to be the same, have the same phone, have the same brand clothing, have the same
think the same things, have the same beliefs.
Like, it's those differences that make us who we are, and there's
no one way to be. I mean, as long as it's consensual, it doesn't fucking matter. It's like
Exactly.
So Tony, I mean, you've been speaking on this recently. You're like, I couldn't help it. I saw a post that you did under somebody who was like, I don't know if I even want to bring it up, but you're like, you understand the extremes of the cabal that hide behind religions that are very much about, shame and blame and like guilt towards sexual energy. And you see on the other side of it all that they're going full throttle with that kind of mentality. Where do you find a balance with it all?
It's easy to have to talk. They've made everybody so pissed off that it's easy to inflame when you talk about race or sexuality, like homosexuality, or the kids nowadays have all these millions of different genders and all that. So they made it where it's a powder keg. They do. Well, I mean,
I know
whatever.
It's funny. Millions of genders.
There's millions.
You can boil it down to this, like. We were talking, the post was about sexuality and it was about pornography, that, people are saying that quit watching porn. And I put on there that, if we were a more liberated society, we wouldn't need porn. If sex was a little bit more accessible, we wouldn't need porn. And so, the other thing I posted was that shoving the soulmate, one lover in your entire lifetime possession of a lover that you possess, you own documents to, I think is more detrimental to someone's health, sexual health, than porn. And
what if you're lost in a fairy tale where you're like, and you get triggered, you're like, you just want your partner to be your one and only. And
no, well, see, here's the thing is, because just as we're talking, and that is perfect segue, because we're talking about diversity. So it is for somebody. So a monogamous relationship, there are people that have been married for 60, 70 years and they're happy, they're awesome. And it is for somebody that one soulmate possession lover is
for them. It doesn't need to be for everyone, right? Exactly.
Right. Well, and there are people that have sex as easily as a handshake, and it's the right thing for them as well. And what happens is you've got this duality where they're saying, no, you need to be like me, and the other one's saying, no, you need to be like me. And what it is they both have the right to exist, and they're, like you said, no one's getting hurt.
It's a matter of consensual. If two people are in a relationship, they both need to be on the same page with that, because that's when you get into trouble. When you're with somebody that there's like, oh no, I want to go have sex with a bunch of people, and the other person's like, well, I don't want that.
The ability to be honest is
we shouldn't be together. Yeah, you need to be honest.
I don't want to find out the hard way. Just let's have an honest conversation first.
That's right.
And well, if you're both on the same page, then it's great. It's
see how
it works.
See how fast we can get into deep water with this conversation, with this topic. We're in deep water already.
Let me bring.
No, it's important, and I know it's like.
Let me bring.
I like what you said about.
Like, oh my god, I'm like, oh.
About people thinking relationships are like you own the other person.
Yeah, that's
no weird. One owns anyone. You don't own.
Well, some people think that, and there's a real imbalance there. So some people feel the need to be owned, and that makes them happy. And you know what I'm saying? By their lover, they feel that's an insecurity. They feel the need to be owned,
and that's an insecurity on their part. Yeah.
Well, it's up to them, because we all have different, things lessons we're going to learn from being in love, and some people don't. And I think we're moving. Like I said, when you watch the kids, and what they're learning nowadays. We're moving into it. 20 years from now, sexuality is going to be a completely different issue than what it is today amongst the people that are most, you know what I'm saying? Like the kids nowadays, I didn't grow up with access to Pornhub when I was 10. You get what I'm saying? Like,
I didn't
either. We didn't grow up with that. The kids nowadays do. They're exposed to it. And kids that don't have access are rare.
At a very, very young age.
I think those porn people are really like cheesy, and they're not in love, and it's like, what the fuck's wrong with you people?
Oh yeah, well, it's not real.
That's societal programming, though. They're programmed because they get into it because they see dollar signs.
Yeah, it's like if you haven't gotten laid for a while and you need to be reminded of what sex is all about. Sure, I'm sure.
Well, they also want people addicted to that. And it's like I think it's a siphoning of energy.
And then expect your wife to be a porn star. Yeah, that's very good.
Well, it destroys, because then it's like if everyone's addicted to porn and you're kind of like stuck in your lower chakras, they want everyone stuck in their lower three chakras only and out of the heart. They really want everyone out of the heart space. And that's what you see, the programming manipulation of everything in society basically is geared towards that, to keep you out of your heart space, keep you addicted to power, money, and sex.
But it can, even though it's addictive, it can serve to remind a person of how to come home, like fast food. It's like, okay, Big Mac. It's like, no, I want to. It doesn't mean about vegan or like. I think Tony, you were going to say something, or one of you was.
No, I was, yeah. I'll save you from not knowing what to say, Laura. No, so
thank you.
The big thing is everything's become so superficial. So people are going out to meet people they're going out trying to find their type when they don't even know who they are. So you have a fake version of somebody going out meeting somebody else's fake version, and then you guys think you watch the same show on Netflix or whatever, so you guys like have something common. You like the same sports team, because that's how surface level it's becoming now, because there's no depth to anything when you have all these Instagram models that are influencing all these young girls that they, and making them think that they have to look and be a certain way for the opposite sex to attract the opposite sex, which it isn't true at all. Everybody is out there meeting each other and looking for the wrong things in people. That's the big problem. Like it's not just because like
it's the same thing as looking for a savior. It's just in a romantic relationship, person to save you when it's supposed to be.
But that's what this awakening is doing. These frequencies, we're seeing a lot of separation right now because everybody's true colors are coming to the surface right now, and it's really a path of self-discovery, and that's going on within these marriages. And one partner might be going through something and the other one isn't, and you can't stay with that frequency. You have to be honest with yourself at this point and move on. You're only hurting yourself.
Yes. Yep. I'd like to say that I think that you know, looking at, there's really not a lot of history to study. I really, it's a subject that I like to study. Like marriage isn't that old. The way that we marry nowadays isn't a practice that's that old in history. It's not that old. It's you would think it's like 10,000 years old. It's not. There are cultures that had a version of marriage, but it wasn't the same. There was also very easily cultures in the history that had marriage could very easily divorce. Like both of them consented to divorce, was over. And there wasn't it wasn't the tying a knot, like literally a knot of red tape that it is now with taxes. So marriage is a young thing.
Something before we close. Anyway, keep going, Tony.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was, and then what we're seeing now is that real empowerment towards like the LGBTQ. I don't even,
just
I'm not that
just beside the alphabet.
Yeah, whatever. You know, and I don't mean it disrespectfully. I'm just not that versed in it. But we're starting to see a real normalization and empowerment of that, which I think is ultimately okay. You know, because when I grew up, it was like if there was a gay person, you know, everybody was like, kill him. And so I think that was wrong. The hatred towards because that was trying to keep everybody in a single file line with relationships. And I think that everybody, you know, every relationship I've ever had in my life was completely different. Every relationship I ever had with anybody was nothing like the last one I had. And so it's a vast learning experience. And there are times in your life when you don't need one relationship. And there are times in your life when it makes sense. And you could stay with the same person the rest of your life. And that's awesome. But I think we need to be open-minded to both times in your life, because what you've got is people that are at the time in their life where they have one relationship. And so they recommend it for everybody. And it's not right for the young man or the young woman or the old man or the old woman to live like everybody else. And so we're starting to see, I'm positive about it. I think that what we're seeing now, the changes in the children, the acceptance of homosexuality and bisexuality, the acceptance of it, I think is a step in the right direction. Yeah. And I think that, you know,
it doesn't need to be shunned.
Well, where it goes wrong is if it starts getting pushed on young people.
It is being pushed,
and that's an agenda. But you're right. Acceptance of it is great. Like we should all accept, like, you know, let people do what they want to do.
Like, I don't think there should be any kind of labeling to it. I don't think that there should be a homosexuality or a heterosexuality. You're either sexual or you're not, and who you're with is your business.
Exactly, it's your own business.
But like I said, the problem with it,
exactly, it's like I don't give a fuck about. I just don't. But that's me.
Well, okay. And another thing,
but I don't. It's like it's not political. It's like black, white. Like I don't care if you shove a fucking wine bottle up your fucking kajinks. Boy, not my business.
God. Right.
Be happy. You know.
Well, what
on
it is,
on a level, we should not be determining what is sexually acceptable. To me, you know, some things are better in private.
The bigger issue to me is that we're being programmed away from what it means to be human. And nobody really knows what they want anymore. They don't even know who they are. And that's the issue. You know, these other things are a result of that. If people really understood and we were really tapped in.
Why does that matter though? Why does that matter? Hollywood wants to be like, oh, 50 Shades of Grey. It's like, you know, if you want to like stimulate somebody's kundalini, why don't we remind people that sexuality and spirituality is something important instead of just like, oh, you're hot, I want to fuck you. I'm done with that fucking bullshit. If people want to play in that narrative and scenario, very well then. No problem at all. But yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But you know what I mean? It's like, very well, great. And it should be put out there. I'm not saying, ooh, censor it. I'm not a censorship kind of person. But, you know, let's allow everybody to be themselves. And, you know, if you're really okay with who you are, you're not going to go against somebody else for being who they are. And you know, I have uncomfortableness with certain things, but I love and appreciate those who are willing to express it. I'm not going to smear it. I actually acknowledge it with great love and respect.
Right. Well, somebody just said in the chat, void of love. It's just sexuality void of love. And that's true, that we're void of love right now. And that's all by design. And that's
Yeah.
exactly by design.
100%.
And that's what it all stems to. When you can find that heart and live in that heart space, things are going to flow for you, and the right things are going to happen, and you don't really have to worry about all that other stuff.
And when you're in the heart space, you're going to have empathy for other people, and you're going to do unto others that you would want done to yourself. Naturally, you're not going to, because that's the whole thing. The whole system is taking advantage and manipulating others and zero empathy.
Yeah, making them feel bad. You're a prude, or you're, like pulling people into a political party. And this is what I love about you guys. And like, Tony, oh, sorry, keep going.
Oh, no, sorry. Absolutely. And it's like, if people, without humanity being manipulated and oppressed in the way that we are, I feel like we would naturally live from the heart. We would naturally have empathy for each other. We would naturally, not perfectly, obviously, but it would be much more than it is now.
It'd be way much more default, instead of like a punishing belief system based in dogma and religion.
But we grow up mind controlled and brainwashed.
Tony was saying, it's just like, let it loose. It would, just like when we look at like alcohol, until you're 21. But look at European countries. Well, now it's beside the point because of all the mandates and lockdowns, but
yeah.
Were you there? Did we lose you?
Yeah. I'm just self-reflecting. Sorry. I was like,
it's okay. We've been going for quite a while though, so we might start wrapping this up. But this has been an amazing conversation. We touched on everything. When I said disclosure and beyond, I didn't know we were going to get into this exactly, but it's all important.
Right?
It's all important.
I didn't either. And the goats, I'm like
the most important stuff.
Myself off of pig shit and goat shit. And sorry. Like, I can't believe I took on this like farm. Like, it's like a dream come true. Now it's like, I hope I can. Okay, so the goats are pregnant, and if you guys, anybody out there wants to help and assist in a goat. All right. Anyway.
Are you talking about your farm animals?
Yeah. So the goats are about to have babies, but yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
I'm just like embracing like what is working instead of being all depressed and frustrated about like.
Right. Well, we can't dwell in that.
That's why talking to you guys is awesome, because you're proactive and you're sorry, but yeah. Say what
I was just we don't need to dwell in that darkness. Like these trigger events are intentionally to throw us off, to get us demoralized. So we don't have the motivation to do anything. We just comply, so you can't dwell in that energy. So don't focus on the external stuff. And that's what we talk about, going inwards all the time. So, and that's really where we are. It's going to look different for every single individual, and disclosure might look different for every single individual, depending on your existence and your lens, because we all see the world through a different lens.
Well, and it's important to know we've seen the world they've showed us through their lenses, and disclosure is going to be different. We're going to have to see what's real in other worlds too. And touching on the sexuality thing, like a lot of people have posted, let's just say we get what we want, Tyler, that they disclose and they give you everything, all of it. Boom, here you go. This is what we've been doing for the last 100 years, and here's access to everything. People are going to have, it's like, if you think that the LGBTQ community is diverse, you're going to have your mind blown, because other ETs are out there. They have different ways of reproducing, and we're, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, this is something that I touched up in my testimony. There were ETs on Ceres. I hung out in the red light district. I hung out in a brothel in my off time, and there were ETs that preferred to have sex in a crowd. They couldn't do it they could not be intimate in privacy. It was a taboo to them. So these are the kind of things that we're going to have to be exposed to. Like, sexuality is way varied, as many different species as there are. The same sexual practices are the same thing. So you know what I mean? Like, people are going to have, we're going to have to be very accepting. I don't want to say right or wrong, but people have to be accepting of other people.
That might actually explain what we're seeing, though. If we really do have all this ET DNA in us,
exactly,
and different people are going to be more
Child
prominent.
trafficking and pedophilia, though, has to go.
No,
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, well,
no,
children,
exactly. I'm
children's
not talking about
rights
that.
must
That's
be
abuse.
defended
Right,
right out
sorry,
of
I
the
didn't
gate.
interrupt, but yeah,
Yeah.
keep going, caller. Sorry.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that maybe that's what we're seeing, and that's why all these needs and wants come from, because maybe somebody's DNA is just a little bit different than somebody else's because of an ET race that they might have in them. You know,
Right.
if we
Yes.
have like however many races our DNA is composed of at this point, I don't know, but it's constantly evolving and changing. So that might, that's why, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? That's probably why we see all this diversity out there in sexuality, because maybe it's coming from literally different races within
a
that
great
individual. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Well, as long as it's consensual, it's like I have my way of conducting my personal love realm and sexual realm, and there's the person that I'm married to over there yelping out. Like, but then, when it comes to others, it's like I don't have to participate. I don't have to view it, but I will never want to censor it or condemn it. But when innocent lives or anything that goes beyond a person's consent, that's the only thing I'm really advocating for. I'm not a moral police. I don't have a perfect way of being. I have my own comfort level about how I want to conduct my own, personal love life and intimacy realm. And as long as people are consensual, it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. But when it comes down to infants and children and babies and, well, I already said infants.
Yeah, because
Right.
that's actual
Like
harm.
rape or like
Yeah,
it's
that's a
nonsense.
violence.
That's what I
That's
advocate
violence
for.
and harm. Yeah,
Well,
that's
it's violence and
that's a
harm and
completely
rape
different-
and rape when the other
Violation
person
of-
doesn't have a say in it.
Yeah,
Which really,
everything.
puts a label on it. It's not a sexuality; it's a form of violence that
Right.
they're
Yeah.
doing. You know what I mean?
Way
It's a,
But that's why they're
We all
trying
on
to
that.
they're trying to push the whole pedophilia is a sexual orientation thing.
They want to
Trying to lump it-
normalize it
trying
to
to
get
lump it
away
in
with
with
their
the
crime.
over my dead body.
No.
Right.
No.
Well, they're
Yeah.
trying to, because they know they're going to be exposed, right? That it's
Yeah.
inevitable. It's happening.
Right.
So they're trying to
It's
get
trying
ahead
to
of the
fall.
game, get ahead
Make
of
it
the game, and
acceptable.
normalize it
Normalize it. Yeah.
before they get exposed. That's all we're seeing.
Yeah.
One last question for you, Tony, and then we'll start wrapping this up. Is this
I'm
comes from
actually
the,
smoking mullein and things that are good for my lungs. Anyway, it's like, what's so weird when people are
That's
like, what
amazing.
Are you doing? Why are you smoking? It's like, is that your business? Exactly what we were talking about. Vent. Okay, anyway.
I was going
Exactly.
to say, I forgot. Oh, there was a question from the chat for Tony. Is the earth flat?
No.
My garage floor is flat.
Right.
Anybody look, I was at Detroit Disclosure and the girl said something about, I don't believe in, you can't make it past the firmament. And what do I do with that? So
Yeah, space is fake, Tony. Didn't you know?
yeah, didn't feel fake
Your
when I
whole
was out
story
there.
is fake, obviously. 'cause-
Well,
Doesn't feel
what do
fake.
you say? What do you say to that answer? What is
So
your answer
they-
to that question? I mean,
So no, it's not flat. It's a sphere, and all the physics around it work. But I will say this to most people that are flat earthers, because some people want to immediately attack flat earthers and like, you guys you're so stupid to believe this. And I don't take that tone. Flat earthers know something's wrong with what they've been told. They you know what I'm saying? Their spider senses are because they know that they've been lied to. And then the flat earth videos are so good at selling it, pushing it on you, like they bombard you. So the people kind of just fall for it. The defense against it is educating yourself in astronomy. And you can prove the earth is round to yourself, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. You can prove it, and go do that. Go prove it's flat to me.
and
Because-
exactly. But what I meant was, what do you say to somebody who says you can't get past the firmament?
Oh, well, I just said, look, don't buy into all that bullshit. I told her there was a girl there, and I said, don't buy into that bullshit. It's bullshit. And the Van Allen belts were not an issue. The radiation out there is not an issue to us. We have film from the moon, film back. I was like, just don't buy into it. It's an op to see who's going to fall for what. They're gauging how deep the water is in order to change the flow of the water. And so that's all the flat earth is. It's all it is. It's them gauging how many people they can rope with those techniques of making up some BS and seeing what their response, you know what I'm saying? It's like a market test. And people it works. They're very talented at making you believe crazy
Mhm.
shit.
It's
And
just
so,
psyops to throw
yeah,
people
and then
off.
right, and then they lop it in with the rest of the truther community,
Mhm.
and to the normies, they're like, man, what? Wait, you're wearing secret space program, and then that guy over there's a flat earther,
Why do you
and they
why do you
walk
think-
away from it all.
exactly? Why do you think every single hit piece on a conspiracy theory, they almost every single time they include flat Earth
Flat
in
Earth.
there?
And
That's one of
then
the main points.
Pizza Gates also, right, and then that Q conspiracy also, and there's flat
Mhm.
Earth people in there, so it worked like a charm, hook, line, and sinker to the
Yeah.
normies. So, but
Exactly.
Yeah, we
yeah,
got
they're bots. They
yeah,
have
we got some.
everywhere.
I'm looking
Bots.
for a moderator.
Uh-oh.
Keystone, you're the only one I see. Can you delete all those as they pop up, please, or hide that user? Thank you. I think they're good now. I think if we were taught how the universe actually works and that the universe is electric and we were taught how everything works, like you wouldn't even question if the Earth was round or not because we would just understand things.
Yeah, Jermaine says simple physics and math skills can
Astronomy
destroy
is a
flat
great
Earth
one.
arguments. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I've been in heated flat Earth arguments, and I'm like, look, go and join your local astronomy club. Number one, it's a great date. You and your date.
Yeah.
It's a very awesome date. Go to astronomy, go to the planetarium and the local astronomy department and look through a scope. Get your own scope. Start getting into the night sky. There's no way the world's flat. There's no way the sky's fake.
Right.
That's simple. And
Well,
you'll be
I
smarter for it.
Right.
Just
I
so
see
many
that-
things don't make sense if the Earth is flat too. Like there's so
Gravity.
many things.
What were you gonna say, Laura?
Air.
Yeah, like air. Yeah.
Well, I feel that we are the Earth body and we are multidimensional beings and we are a replica of the original grid network and an overlay of an archonic, like holographic simulation has imitated what's true. And it's the distraction of it all. Like,
Right. I get what
taking,
you're saying.
Yeah,
like
totally.
certain truths and spinning it in a certain way. And as we all know, you can get a certain level of truth, but if there's one glitch in that message, it's going to begin to harvest and steal your life force and your creative energies
Mm-hmm.
because it's externalized to a certain degree. If it doesn't come back to us and our ability to occupy our own divine center and embrace our own creative imagination and be sovereign and have our own unique and direct connection with source energy on our own terms, I feel souls get really lost. And the vulnerability of humans having amnesia, not remembering the full picture of our galactic history, makes one vulnerable and confused. But if we can go through these initiations and face all these different programs, all these different belief systems, and ask it some questions and see if it really lines up with what sustains our health and well-being. If it doesn't sustain our health and well-being, it's probably not true. I mean, mind control is what makes us sick. If we're connected with truth, that greater circulation is always going to provide us with the ability to transform. But the minute the mind begins to adopt a program, a social engineering agenda, a narrative, or a mind control psyop operation, then it's just an intellectual argument of who's right and who's wrong, instead of understanding that if we get too messed up with trying to find the answers to the point where it divides us, then we miss the point, because the point is love. And the point,
Beautifully said.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like,
exactly.
Right. Trying to
mutual love and respect. Our differences are a blessing. To me, diversity and harmony creates oneness. But when one's nature is connected to a mind control program, you're not going to create unity consciousness. You're going to create hive mind, group mind, or a belief system that opposes somebody else's belief system,
Us
when
versus
it can
them.
actually like be a web of life in an ecosystem that can support our ability to restore the true tree of life template, the 12-strand diamond sun DNA. And our differences help us to switch on these dormant strands instead of the argument of what's right, what's wrong.
Right.
I-
Well, that was
Yeah.
beautifully said.
Well
And
said.
Oh.
the whole mind control aspect of it, and that's where we're seeing all these, there's contradicting narratives right now. That's clear. There's misinfo, and then there's the truth, and a lot of people don't know which one's what right now. And exactly what you just said is happening. We're bickering now, and we're becoming divided because we're being mind controlled. Basically, it's not just information. Like this information, like delivering information comes with great responsibility, and people aren't out there being held accountable for this stuff, and it's really having a ripple effect on, I guess you could say, the truther community, everybody who's trying to do this work. But what it's ultimately doing is dividing us, because you have people bickering back and forth about all these different narratives and what they believe and what's true or what's not. And like you said, we're missing the whole point. We're missing the whole point. We're fighting for the same thing, and here we are arguing.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we have supposed leaders in the community that are stoking all that, unfortunately. Which is, but again, don't no idols, don't, just because a leader in the community is saying something, do not take their word as gospel no matter what. Like, don't ever do that. Question everything, do your own research.
Right. And to me, true leadership is leading by example. It's like, have you found your truth, and is it sustaining your peace, inner peace, and health and well-being? And if it does, it's not something to wave around as being something that others should adopt. It should be a source of inspiration for people to find their own truth frequency that might not look the same. We're not going to process things in the same way necessarily. When people put a post on social media and people are like, oh, well, don't do this and do that and it's like, it doesn't really make any sense. Can we just be neutral enough to allow one another to reach conclusions and epiphanies and their own path to discover what it means to have direct connection with spirit? And this is where religion has always felt really off to me. It's not about worship. It's not about following something.
Yeah.
True leadership is, I'm going to be true to me. It might not look the same for you, but in me being willing to stand in my own sovereignty, I hope you can do the same too, even if it looks different.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly
beautifully said.
That's exactly the point right there.
That's like mic drop.
Yeah, mic drop.
Cool.
I had a few great things I wanted to say while you were talking, but you kept bringing up more points, and I forgot what I was going to say. Somebody, thank you, Phil Christophers, for the donation. We need to evolve beyond all the bullshit they fling at us. Yeah. And that's it. Just be at a level of awareness to understand it. Everything that's being thrown at us is bullshit right now. And there's there's much bigger issues at hand than what we're seeing on the surface. And you can overcome that by going in. And I sound like a broken record saying that, but it really, anytime I am like ungrounded or lost or struggling in life, I realize it's because I have gotten away from meditating or doing something and keeping myself sane right now. And we need those constant reminders that that's what it's about.
I feel the people that create opposition to other people's belief systems are fundamentally insecure about what they have attached themselves to, because truth does not require believers. It stands on its own. It doesn't require people to think the same way. To me, truth is a disposition that a person holds and appreciates that within somebody else. And it's not like we're talking about, it's not going to look the same. But when you're really pushing it or deciding you're going to hate somebody or separate from them because they don't think the same way, then maybe that's not truth. Maybe there's an insecurity behind it that is seeking approval because it doesn't feel very stable and secure all on its own. Whereas truth, once a person finds it, doesn't need validation, doesn't need believers, doesn't need followers. It's just going to speak for itself. So those that are really becoming toxic in the divide and conquer part of it all, because they're standing for something that they truly believe in, and if anybody else thinks differently, they deserve to be smeared or rejected. That's not truth. Truth is way friendlier, because truth is not just fact. It's not just, oh, here's a conspiracy theory that we can prove right. It's way more loving and accepting of differences.
Truth doesn't need something. Truth doesn't need something in return, and that's what you're, you know, a lot of these people, they're not out there spread the truth. There's a lot of ego involved in some of this stuff all over the place, and I'm not saying that we're perfect either by any means. You know, the ego is a big one for a lot of people, you know, because we're programmed into that. But some of these people are, they just, maybe this certain content creator, they want to be the first one to get the information out, no matter if it's true or not. They just like to be the first. And then, you know, that's their fault. And you have somebody else who's existing in ego. And then it's not even about truth anymore. It's about like fame and this and that. And, you know, we're getting away from the truth movement because people are seeking attention. And I understandably, because we're born into this fucked up system, and, you know, nobody knows what the hell they're doing, really. And it's, everybody's just trying to find their way right now. That's why we, even when we see somebody doing something, we got to stop pointing fingers and give them some, you know, cut them some slack, even though if maybe it's not exactly what we want to be seeing and we know something's wrong with it. Is it our place to intervene? I don't know.
So, hey, Tyler, I want to touch on that because that's kind of where my work's going right now. And I'm hoping that at the May conference, I have the slideshow put together, but I want to kind of accentuate, because we're dealing with a lot of people coming forward now that, excuse me, you had your memory erased, right? So erased, and then people get memory back. And that process, not only is it terrifying, but it's not always accurate. And that doesn't mean nothing happened. And I want to go over that. I'm going to kind of illustrate what that means, because we're getting people that are coming forward and you go, wait, that doesn't sound true to me. That doesn't mean nothing happened. That just means they're in the middle. A lot of people are already speaking, like they get a few memories and boom, they're in front of the microphone. And so there's a lot to be happened. It happened to me in the beginning is that I remembered some things, you know, I remembered the dots A to D, and I started talking. I was dealing with a researcher, but then later on the B and C came, and it made more sense, and it was a completely different experience. And so that's what's going on now. And a lot of people are calling BS in left and right, but we're dealing with people that have very fragmented, very broken memory, and it's an ongoing, it's a lifelong process. I'm still remembering stuff. I was remembering things tonight that, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm still remembering. It's your whole entire life. You're going to keep remembering to somebody that's experienced this. And so that is the truth. They're telling you the truth, and it's not right at the same time. So I want to touch on that, and that's not the entire point what you guys were saying, but I do want to publicly start making that known, because so many people are getting shot down before they really have given birth to the real memory. And so
and another thing is so much is like compartmentalized with this stuff that they very well might not know, you know, because it's like, well, why aren't they saying this or these things that like you're saying or that this person's saying? Well, maybe they didn't experience that stuff. Maybe they don't know. It's compartmentalized. Yeah, they didn't experience. So it's not always going to line up perfectly with every, you know, all just speaking from your own perspective and from your own experience.
Well, and you have people, and the danger of saying that everyone else is a fraud or a LARP and all that stuff is you have people that have real memories and experiences. Doesn't have to even be with the secret space program, but if you have memories or experiences, you're now afraid to come forward because you're automatically going to be branded as a fraud or a LARP because of what somebody else is saying. And they're not straying from that story. They're adamant about it, literally saying everyone else is a LARP. So even though that's obviously not true, there's people out there that want to come forward that aren't, in fear of ridicule. And that's really dangerous right now. And it's actually hurting the movement. It's hurting disclosure, because we need all these people talking. Even if their memories are fragmented, maybe there's some of them are screen memories. There's a lot to unpack there, and we can get to the truth if we all work together.
Right. And everybody just has a piece of the puzzle, that even me, it's just one piece of a giant puzzle that we have to put together and fast. Right. Super fast. You know what I mean? Like get hot.
Exactly.
All right. I think we've been going for quite a while, so I'm going to start wrapping this up if you guys are okay with that. Man, we
Yeah, I'm
were
gonna
all
get on to my turkey day, man. I'm gonna
Right.
get started. I'm gonna go have a cold one.
Tomorrow.
There you go.
Yay.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, whatever that means, even though
Happy
we've been lied
Thanksgiving.
about that history also.
Yeah. We can still be thankful though.
I made a
Yeah.
I made a bullet point of the true history of Thanksgiving. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I saw that. That was good. Yeah.
Oh
I
no,
did.
I need to see
Well,
I
it
that.
wasn't
saw it,
good, but
yeah.
It was true.
I saw it, and it's not gonna detract me from enjoying my turkey meal tomorrow.
No,
and
exactly.
Playing Pictionary with the family.
I said history of
Yeah.
Thanksgiving in a nutshell. 1, arrive to America. 2, kill the natives and take their land. 3, enslave the remaining natives. 4, force them to teach you the ways of the land. 5, comply or die. 6, natives comply. 7, cook dinner to show thanks to the natives for teaching you how to survive on their now stolen land. 8, white man, the victor, writes his version of the story. 9, celebrate the successful takeover of native land and call it Thanksgiving. So, I mean, that's
Unfortunately,
that's basically what happened. I mean, I actually was doing a dig on it today. I was researching. I was like, I want to really look into where Thanksgiving came from. We hear the story that we're taught in school, but it's very clear that that's not the case, and that's not how it went down. And most of our holidays we're not really celebrating the true meaning.
A lot of them are astronomical events.
Yeah,
A lot of our holidays are an astronomical event. Even like, I guess Halloween is one that we're just not aware of. So, whatever.
Yeah,
We can keep talking about this all night. See, and that I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. You guys are what I'm thankful for, because I get to talk to people like you, because in my whole life, I didn't get people that got me, and I'm a little weird. And so, you know what I mean? You can't talk easily about half the stuff we talked about tonight. And I'm thankful that I finally met people that can talk to me about stuff like that. It's a big deal. And it made me feel not so awkward. So you guys are what I'm thankful for, and the audience.
Likewise.
So have a great Thanksgiving.
Likewise. Thank you for saying that. And yeah, I do actually want to thank all of our followers, everybody who supports us, all the donations. I say it every time, but I mean it. Honestly, like, there's no show, there's no podcast without you guys. This is a passion project for us, and we love doing it, but we can't do it without you guys. Literally, we can't. And we've built ourselves up to a point now where we're able to put on our own conference, and we're really excited about that. And again, it can't happen without you guys being there. So thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, Tony, and thank you guys all too, Laura, Aaron, everybody.
Yeah, I just want to just say a few words about what Tony said. These significant times that are, near equinoxes, periods, or eclipses, or, points on the calendar that are very significant, the inversions, right? It's like, okay, if Samhain or Halloween is basically where the veils are thinnest and we're connecting with our ancestors, okay, costumes and honoring that is very symbolic of appreciating it, but then we're loading our kids up with candy, and it's also, there's nothing wrong with, I think it busts down demonic energies to sort of do something like funny in the face of it, because demons don't like laughter and don't like to be mimicked back in a way that isn't threatening to us. But it always perplexed me that these holidays are all about consumption, materialism, or over exaggerations of, things that aren't healthy, instead of, you guys know what I mean.
Right.
Yes.
No, it is. They're all about consumption, really.
Yeah, they got hijacked.
Yeah.
It was a hijacking.
Right. And yeah, we can go on. We're never going to stop talking if we don't stop. So, no, but this was amazing. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Guys, if you want to come hang out with all of us, grab a ticket to the Secret Space Conference. Tickets are below. The link is below the video. secretspaceconference.info, $444, 4 days, 12 speakers, includes your meal plan. It's really a great deal because it's breakfast, lunch, dinner for 4 days, and it's a buffet, great food. It's not microwave dinners, And
Best
it's
conference ever.
Yeah.
yeah. And there are live stream tickets available for those of you who can't make it. $111 gets you a live stream pass for the whole event and a 6-month downloadable replay. So click the link below. All the info is there. As we get closer to it, we're going to be doing more roundtables and doing some more promotions. So you guys will be hearing about it. Other than that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for doing this. Any last words from anybody?
Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me. I hope to come back.
Right on. Go get Tony's book.
Great to see you too. Yeah.
My
Everyone
final
get Tony's
words
book.
are just a lot of gratitude. I look forward to seeing everybody in person at this conference. And my website's cosmicgaia.org. I have a censorship-free show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And yeah, my talk is all about upgrading in the face of adversity, where what we might consider to be negative or doom and gloom is a part of this greater initiation to reclaim our treasures and to stand strong in our own personal truth and to be confident enough about it to not be threatened by anybody who might think different, but to also be an advocate for those that feel victimized or abused, so that, you know, all our differences are based in our own sovereign choice instead of being invaded, infiltrated, or compromised by, you know, things that are coming at us. And for children especially, because they're very vulnerable, we have to be guardians. To me, we are the mother, father, guardians of children. And regardless of what we've gone through, that can be something we reflect upon in order to be able to adopt a greater understanding of what our children are going through. And the archonic systems will not be able to feed anymore if we come into balance and we become a more unified field. And it doesn't mean we have to think the same way, but we can meet one another with mutual love and respect and mutual consent. And where there isn't consent, we can have each other's back. We can be advocates for one another, and we can set those free that feel victimized by the controller groups and by negative ego constructs that cause a predatory sort of behavior pattern that we don't need to compromise ourselves to. Even in the most simplistic terms of, if your job or career is requiring you to do something that goes against your greater intuition, don't be afraid to let that go. Don't think that the universe is going to shut down on you. When you step away from whatever paycheck you thought you would get to stand for something greater, trust that the synchronicities and the abundance that comes from cosmic forces, earth, and spirit, it's going to supply you with way more than whatever it is that you think you need to be dependent on in order to provide for your families.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're divorcing ourselves from the old paradigm to embrace truth and the organic ascension versus the matrix web and all its false laws and reversals that literally are feeding on our confusion. So when we can turn confusion into awareness and have each other's back and hold each other's hands to process through it all, unity consciousness and acknowledging our galactic heritage and the fact that we're a family is going to be way more present, and we can assist each other. And it's not so much a new worth, it's divorcing ourselves from the matrix in order to experience the trueness of what's available and the resources that are here. It's not a new earth, it's ancient, it's embodied in us. The light is true and we're enlightened. Let's get rid of the distractions and the imposters so that we can illuminate it and really enjoy this human experience, because there's no reason why we shouldn't. All this other stuff is literally to infect our creative channels so that we enable artificial timelines. When being authentic and moving through these difficult growth periods are where we can begin to access our greater treasures, our spiritual gifts and abilities, and our capacity to manifest our dreams and visions.
I love how you said enabling artificial timelines. That's exactly what they want us to do. And that's exactly what's happening right now. But no, that was beautiful. The best and longest closing words we've ever had.
I
No.
tried to make it short.
No.
and sweet,
No,
but-
No,
it
no,
was
it was
beautiful. It
amazing.
needed to be said. Needed
It
to
needed
be
to
said.
be said. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It really was. One last thing, guys, I forgot to announce. So you guys probably saw that our PayPal and our Venmo was wiped out, because we're just breaking the law over here, telling the truth. But we have a new way of donating. Aaron, what's it called? Donor box?
Yeah, the link's in the description.
Yeah. So
Donor
it's donor
box.
box. We have a new way of donating now. So we no longer have access to PayPal or Venmo, thanks to the powers that be.
Yep,
Anyway,
they got us there.
thank you so much, guys. This has been awesome. I don't know what else to say. I think if I don't hit end stream, we're just going to keep talking forever. So good night, everybody. And thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Have a
See you
great
guys
evening.
soon.
Good night,
Take care.
guys.
Bye, everybody.
night.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.